Hello, my voice is basically back, so here we are again. I've been having a lot of comments and suggestions about moving over to Ko-fi after I had that Patreon did a bad video kind of pop off a little bit. So should we just take a moment to go through why that is not a viable option for me as a comic book creator? I get that it's probably a bit confusing, seeing as I did mention Ko-fi in my small press survival guide, but that was in the context of Ko-fi being just a simple tip jar to get started, not as a full-on Patreon alternative. Once it comes to them actually having my artwork on their platform and stuff like that, it's a big no-no. Can you guess why? It's those pesky tits again. Okay, so let's sit down and go through Ko-fi's terms of service through the lens of someone who draws artistic nudity with some schmecks in it. As usual, I will be putting the links to these pages in the description if you want to go and have a read through the whole terms of service, if you're a weirdo like me. But yeah, we're going to be focusing on just the bits that has to do with my situation and why I can't use them. Here we go. Ko-fi's terms of use. So if we scroll down, acceptable use for creators. If you pop down here, you are prohibited from using the Ko-fi platform, service or page in connection with any of the following. And then it goes through any activity in the breach of our content guidelines, copyright guidelines, content guidance in physical items, guidance for using the NSFW tag, we'll get there, and any other guidelines we may publish from time to time, blah, blah, blah. Any activity that violates any laws, don't do illegal shit, straightforward. Content, including, but not limited to, adult or sexually explicit content, including, but not limited to, pornography, nudity, and any other obscene content. I do love the fact that the way that they write this is that they think that adult content is nudity. Literature, just a moment. Literature, imagery, including illustrative. As someone who's had to read a lot of terms of service stuff, because it's just my life now, I guess, it is becoming very interesting to see how platforms, this is just me thinking, okay, this is not fact, but it's becoming quite interesting to see how the way these platforms are prohibiting content and labeling certain things as obscene, and how that is kind of becoming what people see as adult and obscene. It's like it influences how we how we act on the internet, because the way that they say that adult or sexually explicit content includes drawn nudity, and this is not the first time that I have seen that people genuinely on the internet consider a nude body the same as pornography. This is how it's going down. So it's worrying how completely normalized it's becoming that nudity is considered obscene content, and even though it is illustrative. So just because we're drawing comic books doesn't mean that we're somehow not part of this. We're also lumped into this, okay? There is no escape from this. Or is there? Anyway, and then if you come down here to links to external sites, if the page, so your Ko-fi page, is being linked to from external illegal content, or is linking to, or is being linked to from, it's early morning, external content which would be prohibited content if it appeared on our site. Do you remember how just drawn nudity is prohibited content? We may take whatever actions we consider are necessary or appropriate. These could include removing or disabling to the content and or suspending or terminating a user's account or restricting their access to our site, or, no action where we consider that to be appropriate. But literally, if you are linking your Ko-fi from a website where you have drawn nudity on it, and they think that is obscene or bad, they can just disable your account. You're not even on their website. You literally are putting a link to their website on your website, and they can be like, nah, we don't want anything to do with that. So you see how they're literally spreading out their terms of service over to your website, like literally controlling what you do, even though you're not putting anything on their website. Okay, and then if we continue to go to more of their content guidelines, this is so exciting. And you see off-site conduct. So here they go into more details. Again, web linking rules. Link to and from Ko-fi. We reserve the right to enforce our guidelines even if the violating content or activity occurs on an external page. Like, are you comfortable with that? I'm not. And this is where we go to prohibited content uses of Ko-fi. So we can go down to adult content at 3.14. Ko-fi offers an NSFW tag option, but using this option doesn't mean that all kinds of NSFW content is allowed. Read more about using the tag here, or we will, don't worry, to see when it does and doesn't apply. Here is a list of adult-related content and services and activities that we do not allow on Ko-fi. Sexual services, so obviously, basically like IRL, escorts, pay-per-view, blah, 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 blah. Pornography, again, we are literally, pornography. And then they go through a lot of explicit adult or obscene content of similar nature, and it can be illustrative. So this is where we start getting into like kink stuff as well. But like, if they don't even allow like saucy nude drawn stuff, do you really think they're going to be allowing anything like this? Like, of course they're not. And here we go. Sexualized nudity. So genitalia and areola exposed in a way intended to be sexually provocative or arousing. Who decides that? Including partial, i.e. partial exposure of genitalia and or areola. Areola. If you have a little nip slip, you saucy minx, you can't be doing that. We recognise that nudity is also expressed in non-sexually, in cultural, medical, educational and or artistic contexts, and also consider the difference in risk and intent between fictional and real content. This is good. For detailed examples of what is versus what is not allowed, see our NSFW tag article. We will. As you can see, they do talk about artistic context. So Ko-fi basically would decide what they consider to be artistic nudity versus obscene sexualized nudity. And when they are saying that sexualized nudity is partial exposure of an titty, just partial exposure of a titty, I don't really think that Ko-fi is the place for people who want to draw any kind of nudity. Because, like, again, they can just change this at any point they feel like it. And it is becoming more restrictive on the internet. So don't expect this to be the be-all and end-all of it. Soon, partial is not even probably gonna... I don't want to be, like, all doom and gloom about this stuff. But as someone who's been on the internet for a while, because I'm fucking old, it is getting more and more and more restrictive. So, you know, a lot of platforms are clamping down on NSFW content, and this is not going to be something that I think is going to get any better soon. I wouldn't want to be the person who is arguing with a platform about whether my artwork is artistic. I'm not saying that I've already done that. I couldn't possibly say that I have already had private conversations arguing about whether my artwork is considered artwork. Porn. Carrying on. Offering uncensored versions of sexualized nudity or other prohibited adult content in this list to subscribers, so you know, patrons, or at third-party sites or links, so you're linking it off-site in connection with Ko-fi. So a lot of people who make smutty comic books, they tend to literally just have a Patreon open, but they have no content on their Patreon. So they're literally just using the Patreon link and being like, look, you can support me on Patreon and then you'll get all of the smut on another site. Ko-fi here is saying, if I understand this correctly, it is very early and I've only had half of my coffee, that you can't be doing that. You can't be saying, hey, give us some cash and then I'll give you some drawn titty on another site. You can't be doing that. Content is fictional artwork or real adult content creation. It's all the same now. You can't get away with drawing it, okay? See our NSFW tag. Oh, we will. High-risk fetish and paraphilia content, including findom, financial domination themes. Factors we consider to distinguish between high-risk and low to no risk include how sexually explicit the content is. Who decides that? If at all, if the content is real or fictional, what harm it may pose to the health of participants and or viewers, and or whether the content has any basis in reality. See your NSFW tag. Oh, we will. Sale of other sexually explicit material, including physical items, sex toys, etc. A lot of platforms now, like I believe Etsy was one of the recent ones, have clamped down on this and said that if you are selling sexually explicit material, so physical stuff like sex toys, that is not allowed. And I think that also includes smutty comic books. You can't be using Ko-fi Shop to sell like your book. So even though you are like not showing anything, even though you are just selling a printed book to someone, you can't be doing that because you are selling physical sexually explicit material. So next, I believe it is time for the using the NSFW tag. My favorite thing to do. On Ko-fi, you can tag your page as not safe for work, NSFW. NSFW is an advisory, that's how you say it, right? Yeah. Advisory label used for content or activity suitable only to be accessed or viewed by an 18+ audience. I am 18+. However, not all NSFW content is allowed. Oh, here we go. Let's go, everybody. In this article, which is an extension of our main content guidelines, which we just went through, we look at what kind of content is allowed with the NSFW tag and what kind of content is not allowed on Ko-fi at all. Oh my god, is this the one where we get the most beautiful description of whole? Oh, you might be in for a treat. Okay, the basics. Your page must be compliant with Ko-fi's content guidelines regardless of using the NSFW tag. Fair enough. If any part of your page contains any content that could be deemed by some audiences as offensive. Some audiences. Who's that? Someone in the world is always going to find what you do or who you are as offensive. Me existing as a queer person is actually offensive to some people. They don't want queer people to exist. Anyway, this really makes me uncomfortable now. Anyway, call me paranoid. Or of a mature nature. Examples below. I can't wait. Please tag your page as NSFW. This must be applied even where the content is locked, i.e. membership tiers and supporter-only content like a Patreon alternative. If any part of your page links to any content that could be deemed by some audiences as offensive or of a mature nature, examples below, please also tag your page as NSFW. Okay, here we go. This non-exhaustive list of examples aims to help creators understand how Ko-fi defines NSFW and the appropriate use of the NSFW tag. We get a little tick and we get a little X. Adult content. This section expands on some of the more nuanced points in our main content guidelines, such as sexualized nudity, select uses of covered and censored sexualized nudity, high-risk fetish, and paraphilia content, and other examples of what is okay with an NSFW tag versus what is not allowed on Ko-fi at all. Content warning. Some of the examples provided are explicit in their detail. You've been warned. Let's go. Nudity and partial nudity. Non-sexualized nudity, including partial, in a cultural or lifestyle context, naturism, tribal nudity, tattoo work, etc. This applies to real and fictional content. Non-sexualized nudity, including partial, in an educational or medical context. So, for example, breastfeeding, personal journeys relating to gender-affirming surgery. That's very, very nice that they've put that in. Thank you. Breast cancer, sex education. Very, very good. Thank you. Historic photographs, etc. This applies to real and fictional content. Non-sexualized nudity, including partial, in an artistic context. Professional modeling, photo shoots, stock image modeling, body painting with evident artistic intent. You're not allowed to do anything trashy. It needs to be arty, everybody. Sorry. I always make sure that when I sit down by my lightbox that I have evident artistic intent. Lightly sensual nudity. It's starting to get interesting now. Including partial. By this we mean illustrations, sketches, digital art featuring breast nudity that is paired with other suggestive but non-explicit visuals such as protruding tongue. I'm so tempted to just start like literally doing the things. Oh no, ADHD, don't do this. Flushed skin, ooh, placement of hands on breasts, embracing, etc. Embracing. This applies to fictional content. Okay, you're allowed to hug everybody. The slightly sensual nudity, so you're allowed to be naked and hug someone. Good. Lightly sensual content featuring clothed side or under boob, partial display of buttocks and buttocks cleft above trouser and pants. Okay, so all of the things I read out are considered allowed. At their discretion. What you have to think about with all of these things is that it is what they deem to be non-sexual nudity and what they deem to be artistic and what they deem to be educational and stuff like that. I am so happy that they put in stuff like gender-affirming care and things like that, as that is allowed. That is really good on them. Obviously, this doesn't apply to me as a person, so, I still can't use the site. But anyway, let's go down to the X's. This is where it gets spicy, everybody. Okay, what is not allowed? Sexualized nudity, including partial, such as when paired with kink or fetish elements, pornographic content, sex acts, and explicit emulation of sex acts. An adult content creator context, bodily fluid, including look-alike substances. I can't be bringing out my special, Deleta White and be like, oh, look at this white juicy liquid. They'll be like, get out. Exhibitionist poses, splayed legs, on all fours. Don't you be going down like a dog, you freak. Flashing, etc. Squeezing. Don't you be squeezing those buttocks. Groping or pulling at breasts and or genitalia. And or when offered as a product for sale. Sorry. So you can't be squeezing a tit and pulling at it and going, you want to buy? Fair enough. Exhibitionist poses, splayed legs, on all fours, etc., in which underwear, thong, G-string is thin enough to reveal the outer labia or skin, which may be mistaken for the outer labia. Testicles or the anal opening periphery. You can't be showing the anal opening periphery. Don't you be splaying your legs and flashing hole. As a drawn character. Exhibitionist poses or sexualized framing, for example close-up shots of breasts partially displaying the areola titty. So even if you have a close-up shot that partially shows a tit, and it is deemed to be sexualized framing. Keep in mind that, again, it depends on who looks at your stuff. If someone looks at your stuff and thinks that the way you have framed it is sexualized and they think it's pornographic, you can be in trouble here. Donations drive content that promises forthcoming sexualized nudity, partial nudity. Yeah. AI-generated content, yeah, obviously, fuck you, AI. They use a known person's likeness. Yeah, don't be doing that. That's really fucked up. But that's obviously not what we are doing. We're just drawing little artistic things. And here we go to covered and censored nudity. Are you having fun, by the way? Are you enjoying this morning read of Ko-fi's terms and services? You asked for this. I mean, you didn't really. You just kept on saying I should go to Ko-fi. So here we are. Here I am reading non-sexualized covered or censored nudity in an artistic or lifestyle context at you. This is what's happening now. Non-sexualized covered or censored nudity in an artistic or lifestyle context. So if you are, in a bath, naturism, stock image modeling, yada yada, it's censoring the nudity. That's fine. Lightly sensual content in which nudity is substantially covered. That's all fine. So if you are covering your titties with towels, plushies, pillows, cushions, lightly sensual content in which nudity is censored or covered either substantially or minimally, and this applies to fictional content, non-sexualized clothed content in an artistic, commercial or sporting context, featuring nipple imprints. Can we just take a moment? I know we've been reading this for 30 minutes apparently. Can we just take a moment to step back and realize that we are at the point now where we are talking about nipple imprints and whether that is allowed? Doesn't anyone else see how fucked up this is? Am I going mad? Anyway. Featuring nipple imprints or the outline of genitalia, modeling underwear, related products, athletes in tight clothing, paintings, illustrations, etc. Lightly sensual content featuring either the bulge or of the scrotum, or in which the outline of the genitalia is ambiguous due to artistic elements such as shading, line work, etc. And now we get to the X's again. This is not allowed on Ko-fi. Pornographic content, sex acts, explicit emulation, blah blah blah, regardless of the extent to which it has been covered. So anything that is considered pornographic, even if it is covered up, is not allowed. So if, for example, to bring this back to comic books, I'm sorry, I should have been doing that a lot more, but I'm tired. If you have one of your comic book pages where someone is doing a bit of a sex and then you cover up the ass, you cover up the crack, you cover up the the hole and all that stuff, even though you are covering all of those bits, it's still not allowed because the actual page involves someone getting it on. Sexualized content, exhibitionist poses, the splayed legs, the doggy on all fours, close-up shots, showing a little bit of your boobs, etc. And also inclusion of kink and fetish elements is not allowed, in which nudity is covered, censored very minimally, hands, fingers, forearms, tape, emoji, dots, tassels, thoroughly soaked clothing. Oh, matron. This applies to real content and photorealistic. Oh god, I shouldn't have read that out. I'm sorry. I got way ahead of myself. Nude content that is covered and censored as a form of paywall. So again, if you buy this, if you pay for this, we'll remove the black bars. Nope, that is not allowed. Suggestive content. So this is allowed. Suggestive poses that are clothed, with emphasis on buttocks and or crotch or cleavage. This applies to real and fictional content. So you can, for example, draw stuff that is deemed to be suggestive by the overlords, and you can then have a bit of cleavage. You're allowed to exist and be a bit suggestive on Ko-fi. Implied nudity, i.e. the nudity that may or may not be present, whereas we class covered and censored nudity as an obvious obstruction of nudity. I need to write that shit down. An obvious obstruction of nudity. This applies to real and fictional content. And these things are not allowed. Content featuring children. Yeah, of course, yeah. And also lightly sensual content that appears to depict or uses look-alike substances for explicit bodily fluids. For example, semen. Oh, here we go. Fetishes and paraphilia. these things are allowed. Non-explicit content that poses no harm to participants. So, for example, wearing latex, you're allowed. Non-explicit content that is harmless and rooted entirely in fantasy. Drawing balloon-like or otherwise large or small characters with lots of muscles. So, for anyone who's not really into any of like the fetish side of things, this might be very odd to you that they talk about balloon-like or otherwise large or small characters. So there are quite a few fetishes, and some of them have become quite popular, where people love giant ladies. So they like being held or looked down at like by giant ladies. You know, giantess? Is that how you say it? I think. And there's also a big thing about inflation porn, where people really enjoy seeing balloon-like. You know, as a very, very quick tangent, this is one of the reasons why I love drawn smut. Because you can make stuff, you can draw stuff that is entirely impossible in real life, or dangerous in real life. Like, you can't obviously inflate yourself like a balloon, because, you know, that would become quite gory, wouldn't it? And, you know, you wouldn't want to, because the point isn't that you want this stuff in real life. The point is that you are actually getting to draw stuff that is like a fantasy. It's like escapism, and it's really, really fun to get to like experiment with different things by drawing them. This is why I love drawn comic smut, because it's just like, you can make all sorts of stuff. You can make demons. You can make monsters. That's very popular right now. You know, you can just do all sorts of shenanigans. The fact that they are saying here that non-explicit content that is drawn, that has like people who, they're completely clothed, but they're just large. Yes, that is a fetish, but because it's not seen as explicit, it's seen as like a safe fetish, it's okay, it's fine. Cultural and or artistic depictions of content that are sometimes associated with fetish content. For example, shibari. Shibari is the rope. Oh, no, I can't show you. I was going to show you some of the... I've bought some stuff that has shibari in it, but I can't show you that because they got tits in them too. So yeah, so it's basically a Japanese form of like rope bondage. It's very beautiful. So yeah, we do not allow sexual bondage scenarios. Okay, and now we get down to the X's. Now what is not allowed in the fetish section, and now it's about to get spicy. Content that poses harm to participants. So again, this is fictional content. I'm reading out fictional stuff that is drawn. So for example, addiction, weight gain, via excessive eating, force feeding, fainting, asphyxiation. People are very much into choking right now. Hyperventilation, choking, biting, so you can't be biting people, torture, knife play, self-harm, abuse. So the fact that they're putting in like biting as at the same place as like animal abuse is, I don't know. I don't like the fact that they are just taking all of these really quite okay fetishes and just putting them in with death and animal abuse, but okay. Content including adult roleplay that sexualizes infants and children. So what they are referring to here is age play, if I am getting this correctly. So people are all above the age of 18. Everyone is consenting. They are all adults, but they are doing a scene where they are like, you know, someone is a daddy. Do you know what I mean? Again, these are things between adults doing a fetish thing. No children are being harmed in this, obviously, because that's fucking illegal and horrible. But yeah, anyway, if you draw fetish content where you're doing like, you know, daddy role play, that's not allowed. Content focused on or resulting in bodily fluids. So this is where we get into piss play and stuff like that. Oh, breast discharge. Huh, okay. I didn't realize. Okay, so they mean milking. Oh, they really wouldn't like my latest comic then. Genitals Vegasm, out now. Lots of short stories in short comics, including, you know, puns and, you know, loosely to do with food and drink. It's very fetishy, so, you know, Yeah. Where was I? Sorry, I got distracted. Breast discharge or lookalike substances. Yeah. Content focusing on or containing elements of pornography. So elements of pornography is not allowed. Sexualized nudity and or explicit BDSM themes. This applies to real and fictional content. So, yeah, okay. So you can't be drawing any kind of BDSM stuff, so genitals artemisia would definitely not be allowed. Foot fetish content or themes. People are really into feet nowadays. Again, as an elder millennial, I don't know. It seems to have become like a thing with the younger generation. I might be wrong, but like I am now being told to like not show my grippers. Like, because people will think that that's sexualized, and I'm like, it's just my feet, man. I'm sorry, I just don't. Personal thing, not kink shaming. Personal thing. I think from an artist's point of view, drawing feet, I hate drawing feet. So seeing feet, I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to draw that shit. That's so hard. If you cover it in a stocking, though, now we're in business because I don't have to think about every individual toe. Good stuff. Sorry, where were we? Foot fetish or content or themes. This applies to real and fictional. Okay, you can't be drawing feet on there, so you can't be gripping with those feet. Okay, I don't know what is considered sexual for a foot. And now we go to sexual acts. So there are only two ticks here of things that are allowed. The rest is just like no. So first of all, tame images that imply sexual activity, interlocking fingers under the bed sheets. That is okay. Ko-fi will allow that. Significantly cropped content in which possible sexual activity is not apparent. You have to really try to find it. Explicit or distasteful. Wait, hold on, let me read that again. I got lost in the weeds again. Significantly cropped content in which possible sexual activity is not apparent, explicit, or distasteful. Who decides what is distasteful? It is the platform. Note, we may take action if our systems flag the original pre-cropped image or if accompanying text describes the cropped activity and we consider it to be explicit. If you have explicit text talking about the image, that's not allowed. Wow. I hadn't actually read that one before. Okay. Or I must have forgotten about it. And now we get to the big X's. Depictions of implied sexual activity that are nonetheless relatively explicit. Implied oral sex, implied penetration and masturbation, rape, consensual non-consent. Again, for anyone who is not familiar with the kink and fetish stuff, consensual non-consent is basically, well, a lot of people just refer to it as a CNC. It's quite a common thing in fetish circles. Oh, yeah. Whoever just signed up to my YouTube channel, thank you. Well, I'm literally recording this video. Okay, let's get back to it. Thank you very much. Where was I? Consensual non-consent. So, as I was saying, in fetish circles that is defined as CNC, which basically means that you are, again, and I'm talking now about drawn smut, okay? Still talking about drawn smut here. You have two consenting adults, two or more, if you want to make it real spicy, who are basically saying, hello, I am an adult. I am also an adult. We should be doing this scene together, shouldn't we? Yes, that sounds really fun. Let's do it. I'm really happy to do this. I consent fully because I like doing this and it makes me happy. Cool, let's go. They are basically consenting to have a scene, a BDSM scene maybe, that replicates, I'm trying to be careful how I describe it. It replicates non-consent. So it's people going, oh no, I'm being ravished. Like, in a safe space, you are getting to be like, oh no, I'm being overwhelmed. How scary. Tee. It's fine because it's adults consenting to this stuff. And again, there's a lot of this in like drawn stuff as well. But that is not allowed. So a lot of these fetishes are basically being grouped in with just like rape, which is obviously completely not the same thing. Anyway, okay. Content that has been cropped but is still identifiable as pornography. So this may be due to minimal cropping, a text description, keep in mind, you can't be typing out some smutty stuff. I see you. I see you novelists out there. Our system's having flagged the original pre-cropped image. Content that implies sexual activity and is being used to solicit the purchase of donations. Yeah. Non-visual content. Ooh, this is not really applying to me, but I'm just going to very quickly go through it because I'm curious. So for non-visual content, what is allowed is blogs, articles, and posts discussing sexual health, advice, education, and lifestyle. You can talk about sex in an educationally way. Do I need to go back to school because I can't fucking speak? Discussion pieces and people analysing or reviewing other media like film, TV series, books that reference sexual and or explicit themes. You can review other stuff. An adult theme fiction containing conventional mainstream sexual content. I'm sorry, this kind of stuff still, it does bug me a little bit because we are talking about what is conventional, what is mainstream, and as someone who is queer, that does kind of make me go, oh, it just, tiny little flag. But we won't go into that. Non-explicit audio content relating to voice acting, roleplay, harmless stimulation such as whispering. Wait, what? Non-explicit audio content. Are we talking ASMR here? Relating to voice acting, roleplay, harmless stimulation such as whispering. Oh, okay. So have they been having complaints about ASMR people being explicit? Again, I'm not really in the ASMR sphere, so I don't really know about this, but I assume that some people just are weirded out by ASMR and they think that it's sexy. I don't know, you tell me. Adult theme fiction containing taboo sexual content. Hold on, in the same bracket, because I first read underage and I was like, yeah, ew, and then it goes into consensual non-consent and bestiality. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I get frustrated by this, but like, as someone who draws fetish content, it is so frustrating to be constantly grouped in with like actual fucking crimes. Like, underage stuff is crime, yes? Is crime. Bad. We all know this. Consensual non-consent is adult person consenting to a sex scene. It's not the same. We are not the same. Oh my god. Bestiality. Yeah, again. Oh my lord. Right. I need to go get some breakfast because I'm getting frustrated. Oh, ASMR. I should have kept reading. I'm so sorry. ASMR and voice acting relating to pornographic scenarios. Or prohibited fetish areas. Okay. Right. ASMR people are also getting smacked around, aren't they? Not in a fun way. As you can see, if you are someone who draws smutty things, and even if you put the NSFW tag on your Ko-fi page, you might be used to the NSFW tag. So I was about to be sassy there. You might be used to the NSFW tag meaning something. On Ko-fi, you still can't do most things. So again, I would really advise that you go and read this thing if you are someone who wants to make anything remotely challenging on Ko-fi and you really want to be doing that. Go and have a look at it. Personally, let's go back. I have been talking so much. Personally, I have to say that I can't be using Ko-fi because of all of those reasons. But yeah, I also know anecdotally of people who make comic books of a spicy nature who have been removed from Ko-fi, even though they didn't have any content on Ko-fi. As you can tell, like that's not really like a safe kind of place to be for someone who is making smut. Again, we always have to constantly feel like we have to look at like all of the terms of service, yada yada yada. But the fact that you not only can't do anything on their website, but you can't even link to them. And a lot of places on the internet now are becoming like this. When we talk about Patreon alternatives, for me personally, I hope this has really explained to you in exhaustive detail. Oh my god, I've been recording for an hour. I'm going to need to cut this shit down. But I hope this explains to you why I personally cannot use Ko-fi for more than like a tip jar when I was getting started. You may have noticed that I'm not using them anymore at all, because now I'm actually in the process of setting up all of my own stuff. So I want to make sure that now when I'm doing my own thing on my own website, that I'm doing all of that properly, and I'm getting all of this set up in a way that it keeps me as safe as possible in the future, so I don't have to sit here and just constantly read other companies' terms of service. I can just like get back to fucking drawing stuff. Wouldn't that be fun? I would like that very much. Thank you very much. But yeah, if you are someone if you watch this entire thing and you're like, but what am I supposed to do? What the fuck? I'm someone who draws smutty things or something that is vaguely considered sexual with a bit of an areola or a hole. What am I supposed to do? Well, I have basically finished now. Oh my god, it's been over a month, but I have basically personally finished making my Patreon alternative on my own website. I am also scripting a simple video where I will be going through step by step, not like in an exhaustive detail, but like of how I have done it, for me. So if anyone is curious how I've done it, the next video will probably be that. And I will also be able to show this motherfucker has been so painful to get, and I am not going to spend this entire video talking about how painful this has been. That's for the next video, where, oh boy, if you want to hear about this shit, I'll tell you. But hopefully this means that people just leave me alone and let me just fucking draw stuff now. Anyway, so what I would suggest, if you are someone who draws smut and you want to get off Patreon, I would suggest that you get your own website and then you get a Patreon alternative on your own website. I think long term that is the best way to do it. I understand that is not going to be the most affordable way to do it. In my video that I'm currently scripting, I go through the costs of how to get it set up for me, and I'm also based in the UK, so everything I'm doing is based on that. If you want to see how much it's costing me, I'll tell you. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go have some breakfast now, and thank you again so much for continuing to watch my stuff. Yeah, but now you know, I can't be using Ko-fi, okay? It's more like no-fi. I'm sorry. Oh god, that is so cold. Okay, I'm gonna go get myself another coffee. Bye, 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 bye.